Hey, it's Matt Powers here at Baker Creek, and we're talking about how to know what to grow, and this is part 3 in our little series of videos talking about this. And the Whole Seed catalog has a growing guide in it. I don't know if you guys knew this year. If you've ordered it, you might have to go this far to find it, or you might just have to look it up. Because our growing guide, it's pretty incredible. Here, let's just dive in. It's like a mini book in the middle of our catalog. And it goes by plant, and then it dives into flowers, herbs, seed starting basics, greenhouse growing. Let me just come here, check this out. All right, so here we are. We're at amaranth, asparagus, artichoke, beets, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, celery, broccoli, cauliflower. I'm gonna go out of order. Gourds, cowpeas, greens, and salads. Oh my! So, I mean, it keeps going. I don't need to keep going. It just keeps. Look at that. That man's shirt is almost as exciting as the peppers. All right, so we've got so many options here. This is like a serious introductory miniature book. We get seed starting basics here, greenhouse growing. Those are the bananas. Look at that. It's absolutely incredible. And growing tropical fruit. You know, there's even stuff about growing in the desert, high altitude, natural pests, market gardening. You know, it even gets real crazy. Musical gourds, fermentation. And this is just, you know, 40 pages of a book that's like an event in and of itself. We keep ours real nice, and we keep it on the shelf because it's not just a catalog. It's keeping track of where we are, you know, where we are in this world. Because, here, let me just pop back. Because, I mean, in the 80s, if you look at this, there's a diagram, and I can share it in the comments later, but there's this diagram the National Geographic had made where it shows all this variety going and going into this like small bottleneck, and then there's like no variety left in our gardens, in our seed libraries and catalogs. And it's people like Jared Gettle and his family and his business, and people like him and his family that are keeping these traditions alive, keeping these seeds alive, and you can participate in that. And it's, I mean, every season, you know, that something isn't grown out, and the overall global seed stock of that drops, it becomes more endangered, and we need new gardeners all the time. We need more gardeners, we need more seed breeders, more seed savers all the time. So it's something awesome to check out. Now, I said I'd be talking about soil life in one of the other comments and in one of the other videos. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I don't want to get too crazy because it can go for hours and turn into entire courses and whatnot. Dr. Elaine Ingham is one of my mentors, and she's taught me so much. And so I'll just share a little bit of my own experience and what I've applied from what I've learned from her in Central California, really. So let's flip it around here. So this is decomposed granite. This is my soil up close in California. As you can see, it looks like it's just crunching up and making sand because there's no organic matter really. It's just decomposed granite. So moving here to the side, this is a picture from my new book. It's not out yet. But this shows you how these cycles are all linked, and we first need to get our water cycle together. That's why we need to water our garden, right? Unless we have a system or situation worked out where our plants will automatically get enough moisture, or our plants are designed to handle the amount of moisture that naturally occurs in our area. And then after that's the carbon cycle. So unless your water's together, you're not going to be sequestering carbon, which is organic matter, really. I mean, let's get down to it. Carbon, they talk about sequestering carbon, they're talking about organic matter. And then the nitrogen cycle, okay? Then the nitrogen cycle, which is our protein, which is, you know, our green growth. And then we move on to phosphorus and then sulfur, and then even further you would go into all the trace elements, and all the minor nutrients. And this causes carbon sequestration, improves water quality, and increases biodiversity. And so these are the linked cycles of the soil that we kind of know from we kind of all know this to a degree. Most people don't see it all laid out like this, but in science class we know, you got to protect your water cycle, the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, right? So what that kind of turns into is we need to be mulching. And we need to be returning that organic matter to the soil. So in our area where it was super hot, can you guys see that it says 140? It's 140 degrees where I didn't water in my garden. I have a video of this online too. So watered but bare was only like 118. So it wasn't that much better, right? And then with mulch, it was 78. So it's pretty incredible what just mulch can do in a hot area. And for me, it was an incredible step to holding water, to building my carbon and my organic matter, because that's what that is, right? And then because I was able to do that, my plants were at cooler temperatures, so it was easier for them to sequester nitrogen for the atmosphere. And so all the cycles are linked, right? So continuing onward. This is the food soil web. These guys are amazing. So these guys right here are the things that actually turn the non-soluble elements of our soil into soluble elements, or soluble nutrients, so that our plants and all the other animals and insects and everything in the food soil web can access them. So every soil on the planet has all the nutrients it needs to grow any kind of plant. A teaspoon of soil has enough energy and nutrients in it to feed an entire acre of food. And it's just about releasing that energy and those nutrients in the food in that soil. And so we do it with soil biology, with soil life. This is the food soil web. Dr. Elaine Ingham is instrumental in working on this research. And these are all the amazing relationships that they have. Fungi is integral to everything. And if we're tilling our soil, we're killing the fungi and setting it back. And then it sets everything else back. So it's really important not to till. When we're talking about fertilizer, when we're talking about soil structure, when we're talking about compaction, it's all related to this. It's all related to the fact that these are the things that makes soluble elements, soluble nutrients available to plants, not us mining the earth and doing all these other things. And in fact, when we make compost, it's these guys that are actually doing the work. It's the fungi and bacteria working together and doing all this work, and all the other food soil web working together, breaking it down so that we have some beautiful compost humus at the end. So these guys are always, we just don't see them unless we have a microscope and we're working with that like Dr. Elaine Ingham does. So that was like pretty instrumental for me to figure out. And then this other thing right here. So if we look really close, it says canopy right here, vines and climbers, understory, clumpers, shrubs. And it says ground cover, fungal layer, herbaceous layer, and rhizosphere, like root layer, right? And so those are all the layers of the food forest. When we don't occupy one of those layers, they try to show up anyway. So if you've got a plant and then you have all these weedy vines, and you put a vine in place, suddenly those weedy vines get out-competed by the other vine. So we just need to think about this and say, well, we have this thing showing up, this weed showing up. Often the weeds are telling us something. If you've got dandelions showing up, that means you've got soil compaction. If you've got that Bermuda grass showing up, that means your soils are lacking in structure and they're coming up to try to hold your soils together because they're going to fall apart and wash away. So the weeds are always trying to do something, trying to tell us something. Usually it's because we're not occupying one of the layers of the forest. And so this is just what it looks like the start of last year's garden where I lived, and you could see that it's just hot and dry. And even where I'm watering, it's only 20 degrees cooler. But where it's covered and where I'm chopping and dropping and creating mulch, it was 40 degrees cooler. So it really makes, a remarkable difference. well, actually, it's 60 degrees different because I'm watering and mulching. So yeah, it's 60 degrees different from here, well, probably right here because there's shade there, right here and here in the soil, 60 degrees. So that's a huge factor of what you can, how to know what you can grow. If you can't cool your soil temperatures enough, you will not be able to grow certain things. They'll bolt on you, or they just won't thrive. So I teach a gardening course, and it's going to start in January. It's just something I do. I've got an online course. It's just something I was a teacher. I don't know if you guys know this. I was a teacher, a school teacher for many years, and I started teaching permaculture and cooking and seed saving, and I left teaching and started writing books about this and teaching online courses, and that's why I'm here at Baker Creek, because that's what I love to do and what I'm enthusiastic about. So I hope you all are encouraged to go out there and to try new things and to observe and try to understand what's actually going on, to engage with the soil rather than our plants, rather than just focusing on the plants. We got to focus on the whole system, and see the whole system at play. So thank you so much for dropping in, and I hope you guys all learned something. Bye.